this point, we should be looking at the body, and the body should be covered up from the chest all the way down through the hips. Now again, if a little bit of foil is peeking out of the neck, or right by the shoulders, or right by the hips, that's okay. But as you can see on my example, it's wrapped all the way around the body. I've meshed all that clay together so you don't really see any seams or folds. All right, it goes underneath on the hips. It goes over the top on the shoulders. You should have used the clay that you used for the arm and the leg. That should have been enough clay for you to make this all and set this all up. Can you guys please stop while I'm doing this? At this point, once you have this covered, what we're going to do is we're going to start building the arms, because we want to tie the shoulders and chest into the arms. So to make that happen, we're going to have to start making the arms first. You can see I've already made some balls of clay over here. Again, we're working with approximately the size of a dime. The same size and the same scale that we worked with earlier. For this, again, I would make a bunch of them. You're going to need them anyway. Whatever clay that you have left over, if you didn't use the arm and leg already, you could do that. All right, for the first part over here, we want to make sure that we're creating the base for the arm. So just like we did before, and this should be a little bit of a review, we're going to take some of that clay and roll it out. How big does it need to be? Well, it needs to be a little less than half of whatever is left of the uncovered arm. All right, it doesn't need to be more, because we need to have two of these pieces here, and then ultimately a little piece over there for the hand. So again, I'm going to roll this one out. I'm going to flatten it just a little bit. I don't want to make it too flat, but I've rolled out that piece. I want to roll out another one and make another one almost exactly the same size, same length. I'll roll it out, see that it's approximately the same length, and then flatten it down a little bit. Okay, these are the bases for the upper arm. I want to take them and sort of create a sandwich on top of that arm over there. So the little metal wire, the armature, is the sort of hot dog in the middle of this bun. We want to mush that clay around, and it's okay if it doesn't connect completely over here. We have other parts and other muscle systems to put in there, and we're going to start mushing that together and then blending those two pieces of clay together. Again, we don't want to stretch this out longer than what I've already rolled it out, so make sure as you're mushing it together, you don't really mess that up. I'm going to go ahead on that side. I'm going to do the same thing on the back side. Again, mush that clay together, get rid of that seam, and then just blend it together so you no longer see any of those folds or creases. And again, try not to make this longer or let this thing slide down the arm. Again, this should be a little bit less than half of whatever the wire is that you have over here. Okay? And if it touches over here, you can blend it ever so slightly into what is the chest right now. Next, we're going to start working on building up the bicep a little bit and the tricep. Just like we did before, I'm going to take a piece of clay, one of the little balls I've made. I'm going to break those things up into two, okay? So half of one of the little balls of clay. All right? I'm going to make sure I roll it up nice back into a meatball. And then this I'm going to use for the bicep. How long do I want to roll this out for? Well, it needs to be pretty much as long as that upper part of the arm. It's going to be smaller than the piece that we just put down, but that's okay. Now on the edges of the bicep, we're going to make them just a little bit thinner. Okay? We can see that what's happened by making it thinner, you can see it's gotten just a little bit longer. That's okay. I'm going to do on that front part of the arm, that top part of the arm, I'm going to take that one skinny end and I'm going to blend that into the chest. The bicep actually has a tendon that connects to your chest. That's how your arm moves around and controls your arm moving in all different directions. From there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start flattening out the bicep a little bit. I don't want to make it too flat. It looks like it has a little bit of a muscle. I'm going to leave that little bit hanging over there. That's going to connect to my forearm later on. Again, with the muscles, we don't have to make them blend in perfectly. You can still leave a little separation so we can see muscular definition. But you do want to kind of blend it a little bit so that that piece doesn't fall off later on if we are to bake it. And again, kind of smooth things out a little bit. That's the start of my bicep, and that's going to be on, if we're looking at the chest, the top part. The other half of that little piece of clay, I'm going to roll that up. That's going to be my tricep. I'm going to roll that out just a little bit. You can see, really, not that far. Only a small little piece. And what I'm going to do for my tricep is I'm going to flatten this thing out, making it a little bit wider. And make the end of one side a little bit thinner. So this thin side right here that I've made is going to be what attaches to the back side of your arm. This side over here is going to be the part that attaches to your shoulder. I'm going to flip this arm over. I'm going to place my tricep so it's in the upper half of the arm. I'm going to blend that skinny part down into the arm. And then again, without flattening the muscle out anymore, I'm going to just connect it and press it in and blend it ever so slightly into the upper arm. You can leave it so it has a little bit of a bump out here. You can see from the above what it looks like. This is down here where my fingertip would be where the elbow is. Arm goes straight up. It sort of bumps out a little bit for that tricep muscle. Tricep muscle leads its way into the shoulder and the back. Bicep, you can see it's nice and long. It goes all the way from beyond this into the forearm, and it slides all the way up into the chest. That's the start of the arm, or at least the upper arm. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of neaten up my work a little bit. Get set up from there. Next thing, I'm going to take another ball of clay, again, approximately the size of a dime. This one, I want to start flattening out. Okay? This one is going to be the start of our pectoral muscle. Pectoral muscle is the one that you guys would use in a bench press exercise. So what we want to do is we want to kind of flatten this one out. We don't want it to be super thin. What we want to do is we want to kind of make it so it's going to fit on half of the chest. Now we're going to have to sculpt this just a little bit before we put it on the chest. One of the things we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make one side of it a little rectangular. You see how I've sort of straightened this out and straightened that out? That straight edge right there, that's really where the muscle meets the sternum, right over your heart. Okay? Bottom part is going to be the bottom part of that pectoral muscle. The pectoral muscle controls a lot of different movements. Most of those movements are of your arms. All right? So this is the muscle that sort of controls your arm movement to reach out, to throw a ball, to lift weights. So what I'm doing is, you can see I'm reforming that flattened out piece of clay to kind of make almost what looks like, you know, a little word bubble from a cartoon, if you want to imagine that. It's like a bubble with a little piece sticking out. So I've got it sort of kind of rectangular, and then on the one end that's going to go into the arm, I've sort of pinched out this little tail. All right? I want to rough fit it and take a look how it fits onto my chest. What I'm looking for is that the middle of this kind of goes right down the middle of the body. I don't want this way over here. I don't want this way over there. So if I'm looking directly at my figure, I want this middle part to really line up to the middle of the body. I'm trying to make things symmetrical. I don't want to make this too low. All right? I don't want it to look like it's coming in from under the arm. This little tail that I've made, that little tail should blend right into the tendons of the bicep. All right? But when I place that down, I'm going to blend that edge right in. And then I'm going to kind of blend in the top of the muscle a little bit. I don't want to completely smooth it out, because the top of the muscle right there is kind of going to represent our collarbone. And our collarbone if I put my arms straight out like this in like the Jesus pose, you're going to see the arm is going to go kind of straight and the collarbone is going to be right there. So we want to make sure that we kind of keep the top of this muscle belly right on the top of like the arm sticking out. And then you want to really press it in so it's not going to fall out or disappear. It's okay to leave this little bulge out here without smoothing out. That's really going to represent the sort of thickness of that muscle. A good solid bench press. Now, those muscles of the chest, or that pectoral muscle, they kind of sweep into our shoulder cap, that deltoid, the one we made before. So that, once again, I'm going to take a full little ball of clay about the size of a dime, and I'm not going to flatten it too much, but what I want to make is basically a teardrop. Okay? It's going to be a nice bumped out teardrop, almost like when we sculpted the eye oh so long ago. When we look at it from the side, we got one side that's flat, we got another side that's sort of round. One part of it is sort of pinched down into a teardrop kind of shape, the other side is sort of round. So the only thing I can really compare it to is like an almond or really like a teardrop. Doesn't have to be too big. We want to think the deltoid should be smaller than what you made the chest out of. Now I know we use the same size pieces of clay. That's to tell you that this is flatter and thinner. We want to get our deltoid and we want to kind of rough fit it right over there. All right? We don't want it all the way up where it's going to be touching the neck, like up here. That's not where we want it. And we don't want it all the way on the side of the arm over here. What we want is we want that deltoid to really be like a bridge from the arm to the rest of the torso. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take this little teardrop, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly flatten out some of these edges, just pinching them down, so that when I place it on top of the shoulders, it gets a good, nice fit. You can take a look at it, what it looks like from above. Going to be a little bit of overlap with the triceps. What I want to do is when I feel like I have it where I want it, I want to kind of blend the bottom of that muscle into my arm. I want to blend the top of it just a little bit into my shoulder and really kind of press it in there so it feels like it's all one unified part. And if you notice at this, on the back, our tricep, our deltoid, all of those things are going to kind of meet on one spot on the back of the body. Okay? So we've got the start of our upper arm. We've got our pectoral muscle. We've got the pectoral muscle kind of sweeping into our tricep and into our bicep. Now we just want to make a couple little connectors. What I'm going to tell you over here is we can take another piece of clay. This one again, I'm going to tell you not only to divide it in half, but I'm even going to tell you then you can take those halves and really divide those into half. Really just a small piece of clay. All right. So from one bowl of clay, I've made 4 smaller balls. So these are really, really tiny. Again, my original shape was about the size of a dime. You can see how big they are right now. I'm going to take one of them, make sure that they're just like we've done before, really sort of rounded off. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to roll it out just a little bit. Okay? And then I'm going to roll out the edges. But what I'm looking for is this little sort of thin piece. Okay? This piece got a nice little belly in the middle, and the edges of it are really thin and small. This is going to be part of the front part of the deltoid, and its role is really to connect that shoulder muscle into the chest. All right? But we want to have it in that front deltoid, which is a little bit more involved than our practice one, but that is the part of the body that the chest and the shoulder connect. And this is responsible for a lot of the motions that you have where your arm is in front of you, moving in front of you, reaching out. I said throwing a ball, anything where you have your arm sort of reaching out in front of you. And that kind of can blend in right into our deltoid. And it can kind of blend into our chest a little bit. We don't have to make it too separated, but we want to see that connection. We'll take another one. We've got a front deltoid. We've got a rear deltoid. This rear deltoid, we're going to make the same way. We'll take that little piece of clay. We're going to kind of roll it out a little bit. We'll roll out the edges, kind of make a nice little fish-like little belly with two thin edges. I'm going to take that, and this is going to connect our deltoid to our back muscles. Okay? One thin part of it should be blended into basically the top part of that deltoid. The other part can get smoothed into the upper part of our back. And I don't want this part to really become part of the tricep, so it's important that we kind of see these things as they're going. We've got our shoulder. Our shoulder has almost like three parts now. We've got a part that connects to the chest. We've got a top part of the deltoid that moves your arm up and down. This moves it forward. This one moves it back. We've got the tricep, which straightens out your arm, and the bicep that pulls your arm in. All right. I'm going to add one more little piece, and then basically all we have to do is the same thing on the other side. I'll take another one of the tiny pieces of clay. This one I'm going to roll it out just a little bit. And again, roll out the edges of it. This is going to be part of what's called your trap muscle. And the trapezius muscles, they also control to a certain extent not just the lifting of your arm, but the movement of your neck. So what we're going to do is we're going to have one of the skinny parts of that trap muscle going right into your neck. We're going to have that little bulgy fat part stick out of your shoulder. And then in the back, we're just going to have it blend right into that little sort of nook that was created between the delts. This fits in. It's almost like a little triangular piece. And again, we don't have to blend it completely in the front, but now what you see over here, we've got our chest, we have our whole shoulder girdle, which is responsible for a lot of the movements that you guys do in gym class and athletics and things like that. And we have the upper part of the arm done. All right. What I would do at this point is I would be doing the exact same thing on the other side. One of the recommendations I can give you is you can do those things at the same time. I didn't do it because it was going to make this video twice as long as it already is. So what we're going to do for this next part, we're going to work on the upper arm, chest, and shoulders, and then we're going to double it. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side.